Whispering Winds, 1976. Again, like everything else, seems so simple. You go to a camp and go, I kind of like that camp. We should have a camp like that. And you started it, and take it from there. I am in awe of what you've done in all these years. So where and how do you want to explain how it started and what touched you to make sure this took place?
Well, the reason I gave that long story about my wife is after we got married, she uh, that was that little vow I made to the Lord that I was open to anything. So we got invited to this Protestant camp, this non-denominational camp about up in San Bernardino, California. It's about 3 hours away from San Diego, and you take your family up there. So at the time we had one boy, and our friends said, "Why don't you join us for the weekend?" I'm sorry, it was an actual week. You go up on a Sunday and come back on a Saturday. And so we said, "Oh, what the heck," And there was a lot of Bible studying going on, but especially in the Protestant faith. But we weren't, as Catholics, we didn't do a lot of Bible reading and Bible study. So we went up there, and I got to meet the minister there, Reverend Bob Craning, who used to be an athlete of some sort. So we hit it off very well and everything else, and we talked the whole weekend, and everybody was, all the kids were so cordial to everybody. They greeted people along the way, and all the events they had were great. They even had like the Johnny Carson used to have that one scene he had with Ed McMahon where they give the answer first.
Karnak.
Karnak. And so one day, Reverend Bob Craning came up to me and said, "You and your buddy, Jerry Teasy," who was very short, he is Dr. Jerry Teasy, said, You Catholics, you ought to have some kind of talent. Why don't you enter the talent show?" So we decided we'd go with this Karnak thing. And everybody there knew that Catholics didn't study the Bible like they did. They were on a different level. So we went up there, and I put a suit on, and I was Ed McMahon, and Jerry was Carson. So he sits down in the chair, and we give him an envelope, and he goes, said something, and then they came in with the question later. So finally we got up to one, and he says 5%, and everybody in the crowd, including Reverend Bob Crane, said 5%. What the heck is 5%? And then I give him the envelope, and he goes, "What did the Catholics score on the Bible test today?" And the whole place, they were laying on the floor. I looked in the sanctuary, and Bob Craning was laying on the floor, and it just changed everything. He came up to us. He said, "You guys, with that one question, just changed everybody's attitude about you and Catholics and everything else." So that was a that was a great moment. So we talked to him, and we said, "What you're doing up here is really great. We would like to do something like that, get somebody to do something like that in the Catholic Church down closer to San Diego. So we're going to have a 3 hour drive up there." And so the next year he called us and said, "We're having the weekend again for families. We allow 100 families to come up. It's a big place. We'll give you 25 slots if you want to bring 25 Catholic families up there." So we did. And every one of them said the same thing. "This is so wonderful. Why don't we have a camp like this closer to San Diego?" And everybody was talking about it, but nobody was doing anything. Nobody said anything. So one day, Jerry Teasy, the doctor, invited me over to his house. We sat around his pool and had a glass of wine. And he kept saying, "Somebody's got to start a place like that down here." And I said, "Yeah, Jerry, they sure do." And about another hour later, we had another glass of wine, and the conversation was the same. And another hour passed, and we had another glass of wine, and he said, "Somebody's got to do this, somebody." And he said, finally, he says, "Why don't we do it? Why don't we make a vow to do it?" I said, "Jerry, I'm in business. What do I know? And you're a doctor. What do you know about starting this?" He says, "I just feel that this is what we're being asked to do." So we went back up to Forest Home Camp and said, how do we do this? And the guy said, we'll open up all our books to you, everything that we've done and everything else, and we'll help you along the way. So what do we do first? Well, you go find a piece of land, find it somewhere within an hour of San Diego. Otherwise, if it's too long, they won't go. If it's shorter than that, they'll drive home at night. So you got to find a place up in the mountains with forests and trees and everything else. So we looked around and we couldn't find anything. Finally, a former an NFL player named Bob Petrich, who was in the real estate business, said, I think I got a place for you up near Julian, California, an hour from San Diego, 100, 368 acres. It's absolutely gorgeous, but it's not for sale. So these are the things. So why were we doing this? He said, let's just go talk to the guy. So we did, and he was Baptist, and he said, no, it's not for sale. And we said, but if it was, stupid question. But if it was, what would you sell it for? He said, well, I don't know. So he said, I'll ask my secretary. So she went and looked, and she said it would be 1.8 million or something like that. And we're looking at whatever 1.8 million. And so we offered him 1.2 million. He said, by the way, how much money you guys got? We said, well, funny thing is, we just opened up a bank account and we have $25 in there. he, he laughed, and we're sitting there with 25 bucks. And I guess it was just the faith. The Lord put the faith in our hands that we knew that money would be out there to do it. We didn't know how hard it'd be, but we thought we could do it. So we talked to people, and they said, yeah. So we formed a tax exempt nonprofit organization with 25 bucks. Went in there, and our payment was 9 grand a month. Where the heck do you get $9,000? Well, we knew enough people that could put that together for a few months, and we did. And then all of a sudden, it dried up. It wasn't there. And boy, we were praying every month, and we start a board meeting. We tax exempt nonprofit organization start a board meeting, ask the financial man, where do we stand today? And this is like a Thursday, and he'd say, we're at $8,800. And we said, yeah, we got 8,800 of the 9,000. He said, no, we need 8,800. By when? Monday. Gee. And it went like that all the time. But somehow we'd get on the stick and go around talking to anybody that moved. And we did this for 4 years, or a little over 4 years. And finally, we missed two payments. And the deal was, if you miss one, you had to pay that up or you lost the land in the next 30 days. So we missed the two payments, and the guy usually called us right away, a guy named Charles Woods, and he was a Baptist, and he didn't call this time. So we wondered what, and all of a sudden he called us up. He said, where do you stand? We said, well, we missed two payments. And he said, I know, but if you don't make this payment up within a week or two, I think 2 weeks, you're going to lose everything, all the money you put in and all the land. And we thought, oh man. So everybody was kind of down. We were tired and everything else. And I'm in my garage, and I had a garage phone and playing with the kids, and the phone rang. And a lady called up and said, Don, I heard about your camp. I think it's a wonderful idea. I'd like to, we just sold some property, and I'd like to give you a portion of the proceeds. And I said, where do I send it? And I gave her the address. I said, by the way, how much is it? She said, it's $10,000. I said, I'll be right over.
Yeah.
And about the next day, another lady called with the same thing, except it wasn't stock or whatever. It was property. One was stock and one was property. And just sold some. I'd like to send it to you. Would I send it? And I was, okay, how much is it? It was $18,000. It was the exact $18,000 we needed, 9 and 9. So we had, the buttons were busting off of our shirts. We went in to see him, and we said, here. And he just said, absolutely amazing. He said, I've seen how you've struggled over the years and everything else, but that is absolutely amazing. So we were walking out the door, and as we got to the door, we heard him say, by the way, your next payment is due in 5 days. We went, oh no. So we went back to him and said, okay, we have 368 acres, two parcels, 161 and 207. Let us give you back the 207 acres. 161 acres is plenty of land. Give that back to you. And I guess if we're going to lose all the money we put in that parcel of the 9,000, and also we'll lose that land. And he looked at us and he's, the Lord is in something when this happens. He says, I've seen you struggle, but I still believe the Lord wants your camp built on this property. So I will not only take back the upper parcel of 207 acres, but I will credit any money you put into that into the lower parcel, the 161 acres, and we'll figure out what your payment is. And it turned out to be about $3,000 a month.
Hmm.
And that got us going, got everybody excited and everything else. We got a building up there and everything took off from then. But the faith of just trusting the Lord, without giving up, and I know you're in this, Lord, and everything else, but we need some help. And it was like that it's 42 years now. It's been like that the whole 42. So.
1976. Clearly, you're as good a storyteller as you are a Christian and a basketball player. I know there are stories of people's lives who have changed, and then also the fire. I don't know where you want to start to speak to what you believe is the greatness of this camp because of what you've seen it's done to people and their faith.
Well, we were really moving along. Things were going, we were getting, we had the SDG&E, the electrical company, helped us out with some of the electrical. We got some buildings, temporary buildings put up and everything else. And we were really moving along. And then all of a sudden in 2003, the fire came, the Cedar fire. And it was coming in from both ends, coming from the south and coming from the west. And it hit our property right on the dot. And luckily there was some fire engines, about 5 of them in the big field that we have there. And they called out and said, somebody called them and said, the fire's headed right at Whispering Winds camp. Get out of there. And they said, we can't. We can see it coming down the road. So they said, well, hunker down, get under your machines, put the canvas over. And they did. And it went over just like a thunderball. Right over, and they jumped on it and started putting water on some of the buildings. But we lost about 85% of the property of the buildings and everything that we had there. And so we heard from a radio station that Whispering Pines, they called it, instead of Whispering Winds, it was gone. And we said, it can't be gone. I get down on my knees as, Lord, there's got to be something there that we can build on or something. But you couldn't even get near the place because all the roads were shut off, everything. All our people had left and went out the other direction towards Borrego Springs. So on Friday morning, this happened on a Tuesday. On a Friday morning, I got a friend of mine whose son was a cop, and I said, I need to borrow your son, the cop. Tell him to get in full uniform and everything else. And he said, what for? I said, I'm going to get up to the camp today. He said, well, everything's blocked off. I said, I know, but we're going to get to the camp today to see what's up there. So I stop off at a hamburger place, get about a dozen hamburgers, all greasy and everything else. And the cop says, what's that for? I said, for bribes. We got to get bribes to get up there. So we get up to to the stop, to the point where they had the whole road blocked off. It's about 18 miles from our camp. And I went up with the cop to the other cop, and I said, hey, we got to get in there. We just live a little bit down the line there. It's 18 miles. And he said, you can't go in. We says, well, we have to get in there. And he said, sorry, nobody gets in. We said, you hungry? He says, well, yeah. And we sold him a couple juicy hamburger, and he put it in his coat pocket. It was dripping. I could see it on the shirt and everything else. It was cold, too, that morning. And I said, have 2. So he took 2 and he looked around and everything else. And we said, now we got to get in there. So we shoved the wooden horse, went in there and said, we've got 4-wheel drive and everything. We'll be all right. And he says, wait a minute, you can't go in there. And we were already half a block down. We got on the road and started, and all of a sudden, here comes a fire engine going about 50, 60 miles an hour, coming in the middle of the road right at us. So we had to go to a ditch. Luckily, it was a short ditch, not a deep one. And boy, we could have been killed. It came so fast. So we really had to watch ourselves and everything. We got through 18 miles. We were a mile from our camp, and there was a Sunrise Highway. There was a cop that'd been out there all night, highway patrolman, and he's looking really tired. And he said, "What are you guys doing here? Nobody's allowed out here or anything else." We said, "You hungry?" He's "I'm starving." We said, "Here, have a." That was the last hamburger we had. We've been driving our way all the way down. We gave it to him, and we said, "We just have to go in half a mile here to our camp." And he says, "Well, do you?" Then we were gone. So we got in there, and we found out there was some buildings left and everything else to build on, and everything else. And we got the word back to our people, and we were off and running again. So we got temporary buildings. People gave us, well, we paid for them, but it's 50 by 60-foot tents. Put up about 3 of those: a meeting hall, dining hall, kitchen, dining hall, and away we went. And uh, things just, just the faith of the people, and they saw faith in us, and they just knew that God was in this, and they had such good times out there. I mean, the stories you were telling, we've had people who came up to our family weekends, and as the father and the wife were driving up there, they got a phone call on their cell phone saying that, "We know you're pregnant, but we don't have a heartbeat. And so when you get back from your weekend, you need to come in, and we need to remove the fetus." And everybody prayed for them all weekend long and everything else. And they went back home and went to see the doctor, and the doctor said, "Amazing, we found a heartbeat." And so she came up to the next weekend, that following uh, the following family weekend that we had, and she had a baby in her arms, and she says, uh, "This is the story about the pregnancy and everything else." And she says, "And here's my little baby." And she had the baby in the arms. There wasn't a dry eye in the place. It was just amazing. And then we have our special needs camps, where we have special needs. And a lady came up. We allow people now to come up the last day before they leave at 4, 5, or 6 o'clock, and talk about their experience. And this lady came up. She had 8 kids with her, and one in her arm, a little baby in her arm. And she says, "A year ago, we brought our kids up here, and the Lord was putting it on our heart to adopt a special needs child." We said, "Lord, we can't do that. We got 8 other kids. No way." So she says, "So I'm here to tell you today that we came up here. My husband's in the crowd, but here are my 7 kids, and they were so touched by this weekend that they want to come up and be counselors next weekend, the next special needs." But that's not the story. We said, "What's the story?" She said, "You should see how the Lord has blessed this special needs child that I'm holding in my arm." And not a dry eye in the place. And we've just had story after story like that of families being healed, that didn't want to go up there, but somebody invited them or something, and the Lord healed their family, and the husband and wife and the kids are never as tight as they have in their faith and everything. And so when you keep getting stuff like that all the time, it really, really builds up your faith. So it's one way I can lead into there.
You're still busy.
Uh, that's
How
not
many people? How many families? This is again 76. We're in 2021. Thousands, millions. What?
We're able to have 300, about 304 people up there at a time, with all the different buildings we have and everything else. And with the pandemic, we were shut down for a little bit, but because we work with the health department and we have that 161 acres where we can really keep people separate, especially families, we've been doing family camps and other stuff. The people that are in groups are a little leery because they're not together as a family. But we've been we've been open now for some time because the health department sees what we do out there. We're very close to them. They see how we can spread out and have people not only self distance 6 feet, we can put 12 feet or 16 feet between them. We got so much room out there. And so they are allowing us right now to have 175 people out there. So and we're booking people, like we're even like Valentine's Day. We're basically full of families that want to come out there where we can keep them separate in all different rooms and everything else. So we're moving on, but we're always getting little and big miracles that are just amazing. I'll tell you about one in a minute, but go ahead.
No, no, I know you will, but I wonder if there are people that don't even know you were a basketball player. They just know you as Don from Whispering Winds.
Uh,
This
that's been changed out there because they had me get uh, some action photos, 8 by 10s. So they had a whole wall in our recreation room of all pictures with the NBA and all action photos and everything. And the young kids used to come out there and they'd look at me, they look at the pictures. They said, "Hey, dude, I hear you used to play pro ball." And I'd say, "Yeah." You look too old. And I'd say, "Well, what would prove that?" They said, "You got action photos?" And I said, "Yeah, we got these." And that's you? And I'd say, "Yeah." So they take their computers and everything else and Google everything, and they come back and say, "You are that dude." and and so that's how some of that happened. And of course, they all want to play basketball. Or we have so much stuff out there. We have a 25-foot high tree house that you walk up a ladder and come down, and then we put a 25-foot slide that's almost 3 to 4 feet wide coming down, and it dips at the end, so you can't fly off of it. You slow down on the bottom. We have swimming pool. We have climbing walls. If you go to our highest point on the land, because it's 4,000 feet at the highest point, and if it's clear near the ocean, 40 miles away, you can see the ocean from up there. It's just a beautiful piece of property. So
of all that you've done, what are you most proud of? How does this fit in your life?
probably I would say one of the biggest moments was when the fire came. They announced on the radio, and we all knew some of these radio sportscasters and everything. They basically said Whispering Pines is gone, not Whispering Winds, Whispering Pines. I always told everybody, well, Whispering Pines is a cemetery. We try to get them before they go there to the pines. We try to get them at our camp. But I got a call 9 o'clock that evening when the fire came, and there was a guy named Stacy Taylor on the radio, and he knew me, and he said, if Don Kojis is listening to this radio broadcast, Whispering Pines is gone. Nothing left. The fire just went right through it. It's gone. And there's no way to check it. You can't even get in there or do anything or whatever. So I got down on my knees and I said, Lord, there's got to be something. I mean, I don't think you would have taken us this far going through all these minor and major miracles and all the people that have helped us out and all the people that have benefited from this camp. I don't think you're going to let it die right here. So I got down on my knees and prayed, and I went to bed, and I really had a good sleep. And about 5 in the morning, I woke up. I don't know. I heard a noise or something. I went downstairs and opened up the front door to get the paper. And here's the chairman of our board of directors sitting there. And he's the saddest look on his face that he's ever seen. He said, Don, I don't know what to say. And the words that came out of my mouth were, what's the matter with you? We're going to rebuild. And he says, what do you mean rebuild? I says, well, we were being tested. And every time we've been tested, something's good's come. We're going to rebuild. And so he put the word out to all the rest of the board of directors that Don said, we're going to rebuild. and we're going to have a board meeting in a couple of days. So we had a board meeting, and everybody was so down. I mean, the camp's gone. This is before we got out there to see what was there. And I said, I just have the faith that we did it once, we can do it again. And they all said, well, Don said, we're going to do it and everything else. So it just so worked out that we started getting together with people, and people got so excited and everything else that we were doing. We got these tents out there and had all this temporary stuff going. And they said, well, it's going to take 4 years. And I said, no, we'll be up and running in 6 months. And I can't believe I'm saying this stuff. And I said, 6 months. If we don't, we're going to lose our whole base. They'll either they'll go someplace else, or they won't even go at all. We're going to lose our base. We have to do it in 6 months. And sure enough, 6 months to the day, we had our first conference there in tents, 50 by 60-foot tents for a meeting hall, a dining hall, and a kitchen. And we just kind of moved on from there. So we were, it just really, really built on from there. And then there was a guy in town here. His name was Doug Manchester. He owns a lot of hotels downstairs, downtown. And one day I went to him. I said, Doug, we have all these temporary buildings. We really need to get a permanent building out there. That'll change our tax structure. It'll change everything. And he says, what are you talking about? I said, we need $400,000. And I was hoping that you could help us out here. And he said, not interested. So he's in his office, and he packs up his book, and he goes into the elevator, and I follow him in there. And I said, well, how about a 1-for-1 match then? You give us 200 and we'll raise the other 200. Not interested. Get down to the parking garage. How about a 2-for-1? No, not interested. He gets in his car. He's rolling up his window, and I said, well, how about a 3-for-1 match? And we'll even put your name on the building. No, not. What did you say? I said a 3-for-1 match. No, that other thing. And I said, we'll put your name on the building. He says, okay, I'm interested. Get your buddy Teasy together, and we'll have lunch a couple of days. So we did, and we sat down and made an agreement for every $57,000 we raised, he would give us 15 or 18,000. And it didn't matter if it came from rentals, if it came from donations or anything. Just get 57,000 together, he'll give us 15 or 18. So this went on and on, and so I went to see him one day, and he says, about that naming of that building, where are you going to put the plaque? I says, well, we'll put it right on the front door there. He says, how many doors you have? Well, he says, well, we have 4 doors. I'm sorry, 2 doors, and then the back one goes up a bank. There's nothing there, and the other side is just flat. And inside you have a door, so you can access 2 of them this way, but you can't go this way. And he says, so there would be 4 plaques then on the building. And I says, well, yeah, if that's what it takes, we'll put 4 plaques on. I said, but one is going to be on the back of the bathroom, and nobody's ever going to see it. Well, 4 plaques. So we put the 4 plaques on, and that's whatever it took, and everything else. And so people saw that we had a permanent building up there. So things started working out, and we were continually raising money, and people coming out there were seeing what was being done out there. So that was really, really, I think, the background and the faith that people were having in us that it was getting done, and they needed a place like this. So,
well, Pip, I'm curious, Tommy, to hear what you asked, because I knew it was going to be good. It just keeps getting better and better. I feel like, why haven't I ever been there? I need to go out there.
Yeah, me too.
I want to see those plaques.
It's such a great place. If you want to, with this pandemic, everybody's been hit with that. We had to let some people go. We basically been working with the county, so we're still up and operating and everything else, and keeping the place really nice and everything. But we were using up, all our reserves and everything else. And about, you guys know John Saganiak, right?
Yes.
John,
So
John has
I
been
was told that
one of my.
your faith, I was told that your faith started when you two were inside of some kind of a choir and sang together, and that was the beginning. He wanted to know whether or not you would actually agree with that, and you've left it out to this point. But
Well, I'll tell you that story first. When we were at Notre Dame, they had all the nuns and everything, and you always had to go sit there and have your hands together and everything else. Let's see. You had to have all your hands together and everything in church with the nuns, and everybody had to be sitting and standing in the right places. So we found out that they had a choir up way up above in the thing. So John and I joined the choir, and we went up there, and everything was happening down below. So they come in the backside of the church, go in, and we're way up in the choir in the back there, and they'd walk into this huge church. And one day the bishop came, and so this is so special and everything else. So we're up there, and we're being our usual pious selves and everything else. And they had this guy who was the head of the uh, mechanics class, and he was kind of a wimpy guy, and he had his back to the church, and he played the organ. So he's playing the organ, and he's waiting for the bishop to come in and everything else. And then he turned away from the organ to look down there and everything else. And we pulled out John and I pulled out all the stuff with a couple other people. So he sat down, the bishop's ready to come in. So he's going to start off real nice with a nice, slow, quiet area. And he hits the buttons and goes, ah! Everybody in the church is looking up at the thing, and John and I are sitting there like this, as quiet as we could be. And this guy's trying to push all the buttons in. The bishop's looking up and everything else. So that was one of our good stories. I don't think they let us come back in the choir after that, but I think that's the story he's referring to.
I told him that you would know the story.
Yeah.
Pip, any questions you have? Your life, everything is so amazing.
Yeah.
It's I don't even know a word for it. It seems strong and positive and easy. And
Well,
Tommy,
you want to hear the latest? You want to hear the
sure.
latest?
Go for it, Don. Go for it. My question could wait.
Okay, so our faith is out there that no matter what's happening with this pandemic, that things things will work out and everything else. So we're John Saganiak sends me one of these letters, and they're scam letters, where it says if you say a prayer right now and ask for something, and then send it back to me within an hour, and then send it out to 20 people. 20 people, you'll get an answer within uh, a year. If you send it out to one person or something like that, it'll take a little longer. Or you send it to 15 people or whatever and everything else. And I'm looking at this thing and I'm saying, no way, these are all the scams and everything. But because it was John, and because I thought, I don't know, something just clicked in my head. I don't know. I said, okay, I'm gonna make a request of the Lord that He gives us financial help for our camp at Whispering Winds. This is about 5-6 weeks ago, I think. And I send a letter. I send the thing back to John within an hour. I send it out to 40 people, and forget about it. The next day, we have a Whispering Winds board meeting, and our chairman of our board gets up and says, "You will not believe what happened." Everybody, what happened? He says, 3 hours ago, I got a call from someone who had been out at the camp with his family, and he wanted to. Uh, he made some money in the stock market, and his kids want to go out there. He wants to take his kids out there, and he just wants to share some money with us. He's sending us $1 million. And within 3 days, we got the $1 million. Our budget right now, if we had nothing, if we didn't have that, we would have zero budget right now and really have to be raising money hard. We have $1 million budget going right now.
And you owe it to John.
I think I sent him a thing, and John, I says, how about this? And he was just so nonchalant, like, yeah, no problem.
He's thinking that's the way it is with Don Kojis. He and God are tight.
It's just unbelievable. I've been so blessed in my life, and these things keep coming. So the other thing is that we've been praying for this camp for so long. So I got a group of Carmelite sisters that pray for our camp all the time, the Carmelite nuns. We have our Whispering Winds Women's Auxiliary that pray. And, those are hundreds and hundreds. And then we have priests that pray for us and everything else. So I put them on a list. And when we need prayers, I just hit that button and it goes out to all those people, and they pray, and all the miracles and things that have happened, particularly with health, people going in for surgeries and this and that, and all of a sudden they turn around, they do all this stuff. And so we've been sending that. So everybody thinks, I said, well, why don't you, here's the Carmelites email, here's the sisters' numbers, here's the priest's email, send them. Oh, no. If you send them, you get better results. So they all send this stuff to me all the time. So I've got them all on a button. I just hit the button and away it goes. But the miracles, major and minor, that have, I don't know if you ever heard this song by Chris Christopherson, Why Me, Lord? I sing that a lot. Why me? Why not somebody else who is a little more worthy or something like that? Why me? And there's just, I know my people tell me it's because of the trust, that not only do you have faith, but you got to trust. And so what I did was I went to, where is it there? I went to the Bible, the Good News Bible, and it says, one day when we really needed something, I opened the Bible and hit this page, and it says, my brothers, consider, it's James 1:2-9. It says, my brothers, consider yourself fortunate when all kinds of trials come your way. And I said, I don't feel very fortunate right now. And it says, because when your faith succeeds, you have gained endurance. But if you ask the Lord for anything, you must believe. And then they put in 2 words that just bug me. You must believe without doubting, or you should not expect to receive anything from the Lord. And I went, whoa, how the heck do you do this without doubting all the time? So my prayers has always been, well, somehow I'm going to believe, and I'm not going to doubt. So it doesn't always come true, but a lot of that stuff is coming through. I want to show you something if you got time. I don't know what your time's like, but I do a lot of public speaking and stuff. And when I go out to speak, I always bring a bag, a paper bag, and I got something in it. And people say, what's in the bag? And I say, I can't tell you. And they said, well, why can't you tell you? Why'd you bring it? And I says, well, if I show you what's in the bag, you won't listen to what I have to say. And you're all going to want to take pictures with your cell phone. What's in the bag? And so I sit there having lunch or whatever. And when it's my time to talk, I go up there and I put the bag up on a podium and sit there and talk. So if I talk for 15 minutes, half an hour, 40 minutes, whatever it is, any questions? What's in the bag? So what happened is when we had that fire, we needed something that we could put in an auction that would bring some money, that would really excite people. So I went to Pat Riley and I told him what I needed. And he's gotten me, and Rick and a lot of the coaches around have gotten me jerseys, of Shaq, of Dr. J, of Magic, of, these, all these things over the years. And we put them out there for sale. And And we get some good money for some of the stuff, but this one here has been the greatest thing. So I'm going to pull this out of a bag. So you imagine yourself, you're in a room and I'm talking and everything else, and all of a sudden this comes. You ready?
You bet I'm ready. I'm ready.
It's Shaq's size 22 shoe.
Oh my gosh. Could you hold that up just a little higher, Don? You may have to cover your face. Yeah. Oh, that is big.
Size 22. Here's his signature. It's got Shaq here. And the people just, they put it on their heads like this. They put it next to their things. But this item here has really helped us raise a lot of money. And so I thought I would do it the same way I do it for you guys when I go out and talk. Yeah. And then this is another one of my favorites. Ball from Kobe. He gave it to me. I went to one of the All-Star games. I was sitting there talking to him while he was standing underneath the basket after he had shot around a little bit. So I said, "Hey, I got a basketball there for our camp. Would you mind signing it?" And so he said, "Sure." So he signed the ball of Kobe. So, and then right after that, he died. So,
well, I know this. I know this is going to be around too. I feel like I need a Don Kojis once a year, just for all the things that you feel after listening to all this. So, Tommy, you can close out round one.
Well, the only thing I would say is that we've got to have another session just to talk basketball stories. But Don, as we close here, what has impressed me with this delightful conversation is the joy that you have, that I have to think is attributable to your faith, and the fact that when there was so much adversity, God's plan here might not have come to fruition if you hadn't been so faithful. Whenever there was an issue, you got down on your knees. Where did you get that strength, that trust that you talk about in that passage in James?
I have no idea. I think that's why I constantly play that song from Chris Christopherson, "Why Me, Lord?" What did I ever do that that all of this is happening or whatever? I don't have an answer for it. But I do have the feeling from talking with my friends and everything else. It's that you can have all the faith you want and all of that, but you got to trust. And then when those words came in and without doubting, I mean, gosh, that's so hard sometimes, but you got to sit there and say, okay, you have no other choice. You're in such a situation that if it doesn't work out, you fail. Like, we'll lose the camp. And we came close to losing the camp, I don't know how many times. And well, for example, we have a big gala coming up, a gala dinner dance. This year usually is at a hotel or whatever. And then we have a paddle raise and everything else, and we have auction items and everything. And we usually we're hoping if we could get $100,000, that would really be great, because they pay a ticket of about $200, and that goes for the meal and the hotel and everything else. And last year, 1 week before the pandemic hit, 1 week was our gala was scheduled, and so it went off. But as we were having the paddle raise, the guy who's the auctioneer always says, I'm going to start high. So who can give $50,000? And of course, nobody. But one guy did one time. So he said, okay, nobody at 25, 50. How about 25? Nobody at 25. How about 15? And maybe you get a few people kicking in. And so it was going very slow. And all of a sudden the guy comes up from the side and says to the auctioneer, and the auctioneer says, not now. I'm in the middle of an auction here. And he's okay. There is a guy in the crowd that says he will match the paddle raise up to $250,000. And we all know who it is, because there's one donor that we have that's very wealthy, and he kicks in at times. And so at the end of the paddle race, we get all the way down to $10. You know, we give you $10. You get a lot of hand raised and the paddle numbers. They asked our accountant, how much money do we have? He said $250,000. Does that include the match? Nope. So we raised $500,000 a week before the pandemic hit, and that got us through the whole pandemic and everything. Why? I mean, you look at those things and you say, you know, our Lord is really good, you know, and I'm not doing it. I'm just along with all these other people that are there, you know, we're all along for the ride, but it's, those are questions I have someday when I when I get to heaven. Got to ask the Lord, you know, why this, why that. But
And he might look at you and say, look at all the souls here because of your efforts, your humility, your trust, and your willingness, and even whispering winds, something about the Holy Spirit being there. Don Kojis, this has been an absolute delight. I'm always thankful for Homer, our friendship and what have you, but Homer, for getting this together, what a connection. A slam dunk next time for sure, Don, if you're willing.
You bet. And I need to thank John Sagania. Yes.
Yeah, there we
yeah,
go.
I have, if you do something with basketball, I have a good opener. It's probably close to the equivalent of the shoe, but I could do it now, but I think we'll save it for later.
No, we got to tease the future. This is not a question of if, but when. Tommy?
Yeah, you betcha. Don Kojis, God's blessings to you and your family, and thank you for touching us with your faith. It's been absolutely marvelous to have you on My Faith with Homer and Pip, and we look forward to the next time for sure.
Well, thank you. You guys have a great program. I mean, I'm sure it's benefiting a lot of people. Thank you.
Yeah, you certainly are a big part of that. Thank you, Don Kojis. For our producer, Brent Young, and the Homer, I'm Tom Pippins. Thanks again, everybody. God's blessings, and we look forward to seeing you next time for another edition of My Faith with Homer and Pip. So long.
So long.